What is the scariest slash creepiest thing you have seen slash heard? I want to see everything. Pictures, videos, GIFs, sounds, or even a story, I don't care. If it's creepy, post it. I love the creepy slash scary stuff. Remember to sort by new guys. There really are some great stories buried. I was on vacation in Ithaca with my boyfriend at the time. We had literally, I'm talking 10 minutes, just gotten into town and stopped at a suspension bridge near Cornell's campus. I'm terrified of heights and, so, my boyfriend was coaxing me step by step over the bridge. It was gorgeous and we stopped at the middle to take a picture. On the side we had come from there was a parking lot with steps leading to the bottom of the gorge, but on the far side there were hiking paths with no barrier. A woman walked past us and offered to take a picture for us. We declined and she smiled and walked quickly to the far side of the bridge where she smoothly jumped off into the gorge. There was not a second of hesitation. It was almost like she expected the path to keep going. The sound of a person hitting the ground from a jump like that sticks with you. A group of friends was staying at this remote cabin that one of my friend's cousins owned. There were no roads leading to the cabin, and it was a good 3/4 day hike from where you park the cars. I couldn't go at the same time as everyone else due to work obligations, so I decided to head up the same day but later. It would mean I would have to camp for a night by myself though. The latter part of the trail is too dangerous to be taken at night, especially by someone who doesn't know it. I didn't care. I was kind of looking forward to it as I've never camped alone before. So I was in the middle of these woods when the sun went down. I got my camp set up in this small clearing, probably 40 feet across. Get my campfire going and pitch my small, one-person tent. Do all that camping stuff like cooking hot dogs on a stick over the fire and s'mores. I probably stay up for a good 2 or 3 hours after dark. It was mid-autumn so the days were somewhat short. The entire time I thought I heard shit moving in the woods on the edge of the clearing. I didn't think anything of it at first cause the woods are full of animals, but as the night went on I realized that whatever it was just circling the clearing over and over. Once I started paying attention it made 4 or 5 laps around before I decided to get up and investigate. The noise stopped as soon as I stooped up and I thought I heard some sound going away through the woods. I just shrugged it off thinking it was some fox that was curious that got scared when I stood up. I decide it's time to sleep, douse the fire and climb into my tent. I start to doze off and stay in that half asleep half awake state for a while. I normally hear weird shit when I'm in this state, so I don't think much of it when I hear a voice. Something wakes me all the way up though and I realize the voice is real and right outside my tent. It's just above a whisper and I'm not sure if it was another language or if they were just speaking English in such a way that I couldn't understand. I lay there for some time, I don't know how long, listening and waiting for something to happen. There is just enough moonlight to light up the walls of the tent, so I can see when a hand presses into the wall of my tent down near my foot. This freaks me out and I sit up quickly. Whoever was outside of the tent tore us out of there. Like running full sprint through the woods. I get out of the tent and shine my flashlight around and see nothing. I was expecting there to be a bloody hand print on the tent, but nope. Didn't sleep that night, packed up camp at first light that morning and booked it to the cabin. I was playing around with a radio once when I was a kid, just slowly spanning through the static trying to find a station. I had found an old television antenna, attached it to the side of our house and ran a wire out my window to it with an alligator clip attached to the radio antenna, allowing me to get a way broader range of signals. So I'm sitting there, early in the morning, like 2 a.m., slowly sweeping frequencies, and suddenly I get to this station that's playing this very weird crackling sound. It sounded sort of like cracking knuckles, or maybe Rice Krispies cereal, but with a fixed, rhythmic pattern instead of being random. I sat there listening to it for a second, then it suddenly stopped and this faint voice says "Jit doesn't work. We're all red dead. We're a read dead." It took a second for the weight of the words to hit me, but when they did I freaked the fuck out and almost threw the radio across the room. I'm pretty sure it was just someone messing around with a radio transmitter, but damn if it didn't scare the shit out of me at the time. My parents bought their first house back in 1972. It was a fixer-upper, but they decided to move in right away and fix things as time/money permitted. Within a few days of moving in, the new neighbors came over to introduce themselves. They also let my parents know that the previous owners had moved out after a nasty divorce. They had lost their second baby from SIDS, and their relationship went downhill from there. My parents were horrified, more so because they were newly pregnant and couldn't imagine going through such a thing. They eventually pretty much forgot all about it. Life went on. They were in love with their new life and their new house. In preparation for the baby, they decided to wallpaper the nursery. Now, my dad told my mom there was no need in wallpapering the inside of the closet, but she insisted. She was kneeling down, scraping off old paint inside of the closet when her eyes fell upon something that made her blood turn to ice. Written in crayon, at about eye level for a kindergartner, in childish scrawl was, "I killed the baby." This was a few years ago on a night scuba dive. There were 8 of us in the group, including our dive master and his assistant. We had just finished our dive and were gathered up in a circle ready to ascend and get out of the water when my dive master freezes. He takes his flashlight and, pointing it outside our circle of divers, he catches something circling us with the beam. Turns out it was a 12-foot long great white shark. At this point, half of the group are trying to keep the shark illuminated as it circles us, and remarkably everyone stayed calm. The only things going through my mind were iterations of these 2 thoughts: don't look like a yummy delicious fatty seal, and that I hope I taste terrible. My dive master gets our attention and slowly puts his thumb up and then makes an upward motion. We all begin to ascend, and the shark kept with us until we were maybe 10 feet from the surface. Then it turned off into the darkness and was gone. I did not go back into the ocean for about a week after that. Woke up one night around 1 a.m., heard the shower was on. I first thought it was my brother. He works night shifts, so thought he had came home late and was in the shower. It went on for about half an hour until I got up and went to see WTF he was doing. No one was in the shower, my brother wasn't home yet, I was the only one in the house. Still to this day, I have no idea how it turned on or who did it. Almost 5 years later, I still think about it and shit myself. Even writing this now, I feel like turning every light on in the house. Aha, why do I do this to myself? I also had this once. I came home and heard the shower was on. I moved to the kitchen, my bathroom is connected through the kitchen, and see loads of steam coming out the bathroom. At this point I was scared beyond belief, but I had to check it out. So I checked it out and the shower was on with streaming hot water. The only logical explanation is that I have a shower mat, which I usually drape over the shower head, and the shower mat had fallen down. So I can conclude the shower mat hit the heat valve. Right? A few years back I rented an apartment from a friend of mine. He had recently bought it and had it completely renovated. He put it up for sale but couldn't find a buyer, so I offered to rent it in the meantime. After moving in, I realized there was something wrong with the lady next door. She was about 45 but looked much older. She would sit up all night listening to Christian radio shows and talking loudly to someone. It got to the point where I couldn't sleep, so I went over to her place and asked her to keep it down. She opened her door and I got a quick peek. Her walls all had crosses painted on them in different colors. And words like Jesus and angels scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black, letting no light in at all. It was damp, yellow-stained 50-year-old carpets, dog shit and cockroaches everywhere. No dog though. I asked her to please keep it down. She just looked at me and shut the door. Then she turned up the radio even louder. The next night I had my GF staying over. I wake up in the middle of the night and see a shadow of a person next to the bed looking at us sleeping. I think I'm hallucinating, as I usually do in the dark when I'm sleepy. But then the shadow starts talking. It's my neighbor and she's holding something in her hand. She broke in during the night and who knows how long she stood there. You should lock your door at night, she says, and walks out. The next morning I hear someone making strange noises below my bedroom window. It's my neighbor talking to herself in tongue. She has a plastic bag in her hand with her rotting dead dog inside. It's hot as hell outside and I can smell death from the bag. At this point I'm scared shitless. She's obviously very insane. I go upstairs and knock on another person's door and ask what the hell is going on. The guy is as scared as me. Apparently she broke into his apartment one evening as well while he was watching TV with his kids. He got up from the couch to get a snack only to find her behind the couch staring at him holding a power drill. Now I know what was in her hand. At this stage I'm basically pooping myself. I call the cops and they know all about her. Apparently she is a violent schizo and she hasn't taken her meds. But they can't force her or enter her apartment without her permission because she owns it. The only thing they can do is get her when she goes outside. I sit up for the next 2 days waiting for her to run out of cigarettes. When I hear her leave at 2 a.m. to go across the road to the 7-Eleven, I call the cops. They have 3 cars and a special van over in less than 2 minutes. They restrain her and throw her in the van and drive off to some institution, and in less than a minute it's like she was never there. I never see her again. Still have nightmares about her looking at me in my sleep. This happened to me when I was about 8 and still scares me to this day. One evening I went to let my dogs in from the back garden at around 9 p.m. It was pitch black, so I quickly opened the door and my dogs came bounding in. As soon as they came in I locked the door, and at this moment a person on the other side pulled the handle down trying to get into my house. We had a glass door, so even in the dark I could see the outline of a man standing there. I ran to my dad and he ran into the back garden after this man and saw him running down the road. Since then I have closed and locked doors at the speed of light. My old coworker had a son that was in his mid-30s and he had a son named Hunter that was 4 or 5. She said that Hunter would have bad dreams and that he would sleep with his dad when he got scared. One night his dad woke up because he heard Hunter calling him. But he was calling him by his name, not dad. So he went to his room and he was asleep. He woke him up and said, "Hunter, you were calling me. Is everything okay?" And Hunter said, "Dad, when they call you you're not supposed to answer." And fell back asleep. He asked him about it in the morning but he said he didn't remember saying it. I get chills when I think about it. A few years ago I was driving back to my house from a friend's about 2 a.m. I was getting close to my house, in a really rural area with cornfields on both sides of the road. All of a sudden I saw stalks of corn blocking my path. Going straight across the road from one field from another. Nobody is around, no cars, no houses, just my headlights shining on upright corn stalks standing across the road, as thick as the fields to either side. I knew I wasn't lost or anything. I drove home this way every day, and stopped the car on the road, just staring at the corn stalks trying to figure out what the fuck to do. After sitting there for a minute, I decided that staring at the corn waiting for something to happen was much scarier than doing something. So I hit the gas, hoping the corn would just fall down in front of my small car. It was one of the strangest feelings driving through the corn. I imagine it is what it would feel like to run through platform 9 3/4 for Harry Potter. 1 second I was staring at what seemed to be a solid field of corn, and the next my car is easily knocking the stalks over and I was through. The rows of corn across the road weren't as deep as I had thought, and in no time I was on the other side looking in the rear view mirror at a wall of corn with a now gaping hole in it. Went home, went to bed still freaked out. The next morning I went to leave, drove down the same road. And the only sign of the corn was a few stalks lying next to the road. I still have no idea how that happened. TLDR, mysterious wall of corn blocks road at night, gone by morning. I've been living alone for less than a week. I got some Chinese takeout and was eating in front of the TV. I finished my meal and cracked open the fortune cookie. It read, "You will have a visitor tonight, lock your door." There were no visitors that night, but the memory still haunts me. Backcountry camping alone can be incredibly scary. With a friend, you can at least discuss that bump you heard in the night, or you can be consoled that another will help you if something goes wrong. But alone, it is an entirely different story. The day goes by fine, you hike out, take a lunch break, get to camp, set stuff up / have a little fun. Then it starts to get dark. You have a fire and you can see a little at first, but before long, total darkness sets in. It is disheartening to not be able to see your hand in front of your face. Soon enough, you start hearing things, footsteps, twigs snapping, brush moving. Depending on where you are camping, you might hear coyotes / wolves at night. Coyotes have more of a shrill yelping howl, almost hyena-like. Wolves have this hauntingly beautiful droning howl. The worst part is that you will hear them everywhere. You'll hear a howl a couple miles away, then you'll hear one a mile away, then you'll hear one 500 yards away. Pretty soon, you can be surrounded by this eerie chorus. It doesn't make for the best sleep. Storms are also worrisome out in the middle of nowhere. Lightning has claimed many hikers. I also stumbled upon a black bear 20 feet away once. Despite nearly having a heart attack / shitting my pants / accepting death, it noticed me pretty quickly and fled. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. We release new videos throughout the week, so hit that notification button to always know when new content drops.